This is a real place. You can find it on Google Earth right now, tonight, after this talk. A skyline of high-rise towers on reclaimed land off the coast of Malaysia, built for 700,000 people. Best estimates put the number actually living there today somewhere between 15 and 20,000. That's not a shortfall. That's a rounding error against the target. I'm going to take you on a tour today. A short one, 6 stops, through some of the most expensive failed developments in modern history. And then I'm going to show you the one thing, the single missing column, that every one of them has in common, and what happens when you put it back. 6 stops. Forest City, Malaysia, $100 billion announced. Lavasa, India, $1.5 billion. Amaravati, India, over $4 billion. And that's before the more recent figures. King Abdullah Economic City, Saudi Arabia, up to $100 billion at full build-out. And The Line, part of NEOM, also Saudi Arabia, announced at $500 billion. A leaked internal audit in 2025 put the real cost of finishing it as designed at $8.8 trillion. Added up across just the 12 projects in the full study behind this talk, and you're past $1 trillion of announced capital on cities that mostly never arrived. Start with The Line, a mirrored wall, 170 kilometers long, 9 million people inside it, no cars, no emissions. That was the 2017 pitch. By 2025, roughly $50 billion had bought 2.5 kilometers of construction. Construction was suspended that September. The population target had already been quietly cut from 1.5 million to 300,000. That's the financial story. It's not the part that should stay with you longest. The land. The line was designed to run through belonged to the Al Huwaitat tribe, who had lived on it for generations. Members who resisted eviction were prosecuted. Human rights monitors have documented killings connected to the displacement. None of that appears in any budget NEOM has ever published. Not the $500 billion figure, not the $1 trillion figures that came later. Not because anyone thought it wouldn't matter. It was invisible the same way a cost is invisible to a ledger that was never built with a place to record it. That's the pattern. Not one bad country, not one bad decision. Every project on this tour was financed and measured against exactly one number. Capital raised, units sold, a headline population target, and treated everything else as free, right up until it turned out not to be. Forest City, marketed almost entirely to investors, moving capital out of mainland China. In 2017, Beijing tightened capital controls. The buyer pipeline didn't slow down. It stopped. Lavasa, India, 10,000 people displaced across 18 villages to build a hill city styled on an Italian lakeside town. Land transfers later found to involve forged signatures. The project's own insolvency resolution process was itself thrown out for misrepresentation. Amaravati, 33,000 acres of farmland surrendered under a pooling scheme. A single state election froze the project for 5 years. Annuities are still owed. King Abdullah Economic City, 20 years, $25 billion, 10,000 residents against a target of 2 million, 2 separate government bailouts, 6 more cities, same pattern, 6 times over. Here's the missing column, named properly. Every one of these projects tracked financial capital, and only financial capital. 4 other kinds of value were destroyed in every single case, with nowhere on the books to write any of it down. Ecological capital, the land, water, and air a project depends on. Cultural capital, the knowledge and heritage of the people already there. Social capital, the trust a community takes generations to build and one broken promise to damage. and generational capital, whether what gets built today leaves tomorrow better off or just leaves it the bill. Here's what I didn't expect going in. This isn't only a story about absence. Go looking for institutions that protected all 5 of these categories long before anyone called it 5 capitals accounting, and they already exist. A single Massachusetts charter has held land, defended it, funded it, and told its story continuously since 1891. One institution has taken zero government money for 170 years because it built its own financial capital deliberately instead of hoping a grant would arrive. None of these institutions used this language. All of them, independently, protected all 5 capitals. Every one of them is still standing. And when you map the ones that didn't survive against the same 5 categories, they all share exactly one gap: not money, not care, not intent. No legal mechanism preventing a future sale, mortgage, or redirection of purpose. That one gap is the only one that kills an institution outright. The fix isn't complicated, and it isn't new. It's closer to a rediscovery than an invention. Price one capital in dollars, because money is genuinely fungible in a way the other 4 aren't. Attest the other 4. Every reading carries a source, a timestamp, a location, and a named party willing to stand behind it. The same discipline a court applies to evidence before it's admitted. And never collapse all 5 into one summary number, because that collapse is exactly the mechanism by which a real loss quietly becomes tradable. This isn't theoretical. 5 real engagements at 5 different scales: a well, a seabed, an island, a nation, and a trade corridor still being formed, are already running on exactly this method against real capital and real counterparties, including the places it got something wrong and had to correct in the open. Go take the tour yourself. It's on Google Earth, and it's free. Look at the towers with no one in them, the hill city that never filled, the wall that stopped at 2.5 kilometers. Then ask the only question that actually would have caught every one of them before the money moved. What happens to the land, the culture, the community, and the next generation if this goes wrong? And where, specifically, was that written down before anyone started? If the honest answer is nowhere, you've found the missing column. Now you know what it looks like when someone finally fills it in.